An entire kingdom vanished overnight, not because of war, not because of nature, but because of one decision made by one man. A decision so catastrophic that historians still argue about it today. Beyond the reach of modern maps, buried under centuries of sand, lies the memory of a kingdom once powerful enough to shake the ancient world. A realm that rose from dust, commanded respect across continents, and then collapsed into silence, so complete that even its name faded from history. That kingdom was Aravinthia. Imagine towering stone temples shimmering beneath the desert sun. Imagine marketplaces alive with music, scholars mapping the stars, armies marching with fierce purpose. Aravinthia wasn't just a kingdom, it was a miracle, carved from barren earth. But miracles do not last forever. Tonight, the forgotten rises again. This is the story of Aravinthia, its birth, its glory, its fall, and the deadly mistake that sealed its fate. Long before the great civilizations carved their names into stone, along the fading edges of the soulless desert lay a forgotten cluster of huts. Life was fragile, food was scarce, tribes clashed endlessly over water and land, until destiny chose a man named Varunash. Varunash wasn't born a ruler, he was a wanderer who had seen too many graves, too many battles, too much chaos. He dreamt of a land where people lived without fear, without hunger, without constant war. A land where unity was a weapon stronger than any blade. He gathered tribes who had fought for generations and brought them together under one banner. He carved canals through the desert sands, harnessed the soulless river, and transformed a wasteland into fertile plains. From scattered fires came a blazing kingdom. Aravinthia breathed its first royal breath. After Varunash, the throne passed two rulers who sharpened the kingdom into a spear. None stood taller than Queen Samira the Bold, a strategist whose mind worked like clockwork, gears of war and peace. Under Samira, the army doubled. Trade routes expanded to 3 continents. Schools, academies, and healing centers were built, and Aravinthia became known as the Desert Jewel. Samira's reign was not defined by war, but by the wisdom to avoid it. She watched the world closely. She studied other kingdoms, their failures, their victories, their mistakes. She was especially fascinated by a conflict far from Aravinthia, a historic battle that shook the ancient world. It was the year 1274 BCE, and to the west, 2 giant civilizations faced each other. One side it was Egypt, led by Pharaoh Ramesses II, one of the most powerful rulers in history, and facing them was the Hittite Empire, commanded by King Muwatalli II, a brilliant tactician. They fought over a city called Kadesh, a vital trading point in modern-day Syria. It became one of the largest chariot battles the world had ever seen. Over 5,000 chariots thundered across the battlefield. The Hittites ambushed the Egyptians with ferocity. Ramesses II, nearly defeated, rallied his forces in a moment that became legendary. The battle ended without a clear winner. But Queen Samira, who watched this war, learned a very important lesson. Even the mightiest empires fall when they underestimate their enemy. Even the strongest armies break when leadership hesitates. This real battle, this real turning point in history, shaped Samira's policies. She trained her generals to avoid arrogance. She built alliances, not empires. She used diplomacy as her sword. Before we continue, if stories like this electrify your imagination, hit that subscribe button. Join the journey into forgotten worlds. Now, let's return to Aravinthia. Aravinthia's golden age was breathtaking. Great temples carved from white sandstone rose like mountains. Their pillars held carvings of stars, myths, and victories. Artisans mastered metalwork so delicate that even travelers from Egypt and Babylon were astonished with admiration. The kingdom's scholars charted constellations. Its doctors created herbal mixes later discovered to be powerful antibiotics. Its mathematicians developed early geometric theories used in construction. Trade caravans stretched across the desert like rivers of gold. Music echoed through the streets during night festivals. The Solas River flowed through the kingdom like a silver serpent of life. Aravinthia stood proudly among the great powers of the ancient world, a kingdom of wisdom, strength, beauty. But history teaches that the brighter the flame, the darker the shadow it casts. Over time, the royal bloodline grew comfortable. Too comfortable. Luxury replaced discipline, ego replaced strategy, and loyalty turned into corruption. Samira's descendants treated the crown as a toy rather than a responsibility. Internal disputes fractured the kingdom. Generals fought for influence. Ministers stole from treasury chests. Rich families manipulated young rulers, and farmers suffered under growing taxes. And then, the disaster began. After the Battle of Kadesh, both Egypt and the Hittite Empire entered decades of fragile peace. This was the world's first recorded peace treaty. Trade routes shifted. Power centers changed. New alliances formed. Aravinthia depended heavily on trade that passed through the same regions. When the Egyptians and Hittites tightened control over their borders, Aravinthia's economy slowly suffocated. Also, in the same period, a drought caused the Solas River to shift course. Crops started dying under the sun. Traders started abandoning routes, and enemies started sensing weakness. Aravinthia's walls began to tremble, but the final blow came from within. General Arakan, once a respected warrior, believed the throne belonged to him. He had studied the tactics of the Battle of Kadesh, admired Ramesses II, and fantasized about carving his own legacy. He led a rebellion. He marched with half the army, burned the eastern fortresses, and cornered the young King Vedran, Samira's great-grandson. During the siege of Solakar, the capital, Arakan cut off food supply for weeks. The city starved and people turned against the royal family. And with one final assault, Aravinthia's golden walls cracked under the flames. The kingdom fell not to foreign powers, but to its own pride. Today, only fragments remain, broken columns, faded inscriptions, abandoned riverbeds. But the lessons of Aravinthia shine brighter than ever. Lesson 1. Greatness demands humility. The Egyptians and Hittites nearly destroyed themselves through arrogance. Aravinthia repeated that mistake. Lesson 2. Leadership requires constant vigilance. Samira watched the world. Her successors watched only their own reflections. Lesson 3. Internal unity is stronger than any army. Arakan's rebellion proved that a kingdom falls faster from inside than outside. Lesson 4. Prosperity must be protected, not flaunted. Aravinthia's riches became its weakness. Lesson 5. Nature's warnings must be heard. The river shifted, but the rulers ignored it. These lessons are not ancient. They echo through every age, every nation, every organization, and every leader. Aravinthia may have vanished into the sands. Its palaces may be dust today. Its heroes may have been forgotten, but its story remains alive, which is a warning, a guide, a mirror to our own world. If stories like this ignite your imagination, uncover forgotten truths, and stir the explorer within, hit subscribe, like, and share.